Webinar on Chanakya Leadership Principles for the 21st Century. Our speakers are Dr. Radhakrishna Pillai and Shri Pranav Patel, Pranav Bhai, I would say, and Esther Dhanraj, our Director of Advancement, is also joining us. But today's topic on Chanakya's leadership principles for the 21st century. We know leadership is a subject of serious study, discussion, and research globally. Chanakya, who lived in the 4th century before the Common Era, was a visionary who understood the principles of effective leadership. His pioneering ideas are relevant for contemporary leaders trying to address the challenges of our times. Chanakya's book, Kautilya's Arthashastra, contains 6,000 sutras, aphorisms that cover various aspects of leadership and self-management that are essential to study. And so we're going to get into how a text written 2,300 years ago can be relevant today. The frameworks, models, principles were effective then, and the Indian tradition has applied them and can be reinvented to address current challenges. So in this webinar, Dr. Radhakrishna Pillai and Shri Pranav Patel will introduce their research on Chanakya, present what they've put together. If you aren't familiar with Kautilya Chanakya, he has the same person, has a whole history that I think we'll get a little introduction into. And so let me just give each of our speakers a quick introduction as well. And if you haven't yet, please put in the chat where you're zooming in from, and we can give you a shout out. Vijay Kane from Houston, Friends of HUA, glad to have you on. Satish Damle from Atlanta, welcome, welcome, glad to have you on here. And Esther, if you want to give a shout out to some of our guests as you get acclimated to webinar hosting, please do.
Sure, yeah.
Great. So with that, let me introduce Shri Pranav Bhai, Pranav Patel. He's actually the Senior Executive Officer of the Indian Institute of Technology at Kharagpur.
Swati Jayachandran from Stavanger, Norway. Wow. Welcome, Swati ji.
Pranav Bhai, did I get that wrong?
From Columbus.
Yes, you got it wrong, a little wrong, but yes, I am the Senior Executive Officer of the Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership, which is a leadership academy at IIT Kharagpur. So, yeah, it's an academy inside IIT Kharagpur, which I am a Senior Executive Officer for. So that's what my
there was a little bit of missing there, but that's still impressive title. And Pranav Bhai is a passionate leadership developer. He's got a wealth of experience in the field. At the Partha Ghosh Academy, he's, as he said, the strategic and outreach senior executive. And he's been teaching at HUA for a few years now. And I had the privilege of taking a class with Pranav Bhai and Radhakrishna ji, Dr. Pillai. And it is an amazing experience where their expertise, their study, their application really comes through. Pranav Bhai, through his career, has been sought after as a lecturer, course conductor, and we're glad to have him at HUA. That's a brief introduction. We're going to get into more of that. And Dr. Radhakrishna Pillai has a PhD from the University of Mumbai in the Department of Philosophy. He trains leaders and aspirants from various fields, including corporate politics, academics, military. He's done, of course, extensive research on Kautilya's Arthashastras, and he's written, I think it's over 20 books now, all aspects of Chanakya, and it's his application in all these different modern contexts. He's got 25 years of experience in business and training and all sorts of aspects, including written 200 articles and papers for magazines, newspapers, journals. He also hosted a radio show called Ask Chanakya. And so with that brief introduction, let me hand it off to, I think usually Pranav Bhai starts us off, and we'll do that. But before that, let me hand it to Esther G to give a shout out to the rest of our participants who haven't been recognized yet.
Yeah, Milind Zodge from Salt Lake City, Krishna from Michigan, Arpit Garg from Dallas, Chandrakant from Rockville, Maryland, Rupal from Columbus, Ohio, Shivam Dubey from Orlando, Kamlesh Kapoor from Virginia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So nice to see you all here.
Thank you. All right, Pranav bhai, let me hand it to you and let's get this webinar going.
Sure. Thank you very much, Ankur Bhai, and it's a pleasure and always an honor to all that we do with HUA, because uh, being the pioneer in terms of coming up with programs in Hinduism, and I would not see use the word Hinduism, and I would say more of our Hindu culture or our Hindu Sanskriti and Bharatiya Sanskriti, as we say. So really feels an honor always that whenever we get connected, whatever we work we do, especially with the number of years. I think it's been 1.5 plus another 6 months or 2 years that we've been doing these programs with HUA, and I would say the scope has just widened every time we work on things. And Ankur Bhai, really happy to see the way you spoke about Kautilya and Chanakya, because you have been one of these participants, the students who have been a part of the program. And I really felt that there is someone whom I should now start giving away things and start, Ankur Bhai, please take a class now, next time in the next batch. So that should be the case again. So thank you very much. So it's a honor and pleasure. Sir is here. So, sir, please, a few words from you before we get into the formal presentation of today, but then we'd like to hear from you. It's been my pleasure as well to work with sir. In fact, sir, I want to take this moment to convey my gratitude to you as well, because HUA has been a forum where me and sir has been able to connect since last 6 years. I mean, we've been working since last 10 years, but in last 2 years, we've been doing this program, 6 batches we've done. And then now as things progress, life goes on, we all increase in our responsibilities in life. But then HUA always keeps us connected. So that's one platform for me to take sir's blessing always. I'm as always, my all, I would say, Charam Sparsha Pranam in that sense to you. So thank you very much. We have visited together to a place called, Dunagiri, where there is Neem Karoli Baba's, and further we go down, and then we have Mahavatar Baba's cave there as well. And that's where he said, Mahavatar Baba gave Diksha to Lahari Mahashaya. And if you all have read the book Autobiography of a Yogi, you will know that. And I feel somewhere I am one of these students of sirs who has been given that Diksha of, Ja tu bhi Chanakya pe jiyega, the blessings, as we say, so Guru Krupa has been there on me in that sense, and also the Shastra Krupa. So thank you very much, sir, for all that. I am today's all your blessings. Sir, a few words from you, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pranav sir. It's such an honor to see, all of you here from different parts of US and other parts of the world also. Our generation is lucky because of two things. We can actually build our future based on our past knowledge, especially India has got such a huge treasury of wisdom. The second advantage that we have is that we have technology on our side. Imagine I'm sitting in Mumbai and Pranav sir is sitting in IIT Kharagpur. So all of us from different parts of the world can just log in wherever we are. Some of you may be at home, some of you may be in offices, some of you may be on a weekend also. You can just pull out an hour's time and listen. What should I say? What I always say, we've been running batches after batches. Thank you, Ankurji. We have two Patels here. And one Patel tells the other Patel that now start taking a class. So the one request that I have for all the batches, myself and Pranav has been taking so many batches. But one common thing I tell is that come as a student, but go out as a teacher. Because the kind of a demand for Chanakya's leadership, or I would say leadership generally as a subject, is growing in the academic field world over. At the Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership, Pranav is taking care. At the Mumbai University, I'm running an institution on leadership. The leadership has become the buzzword in academic world. Of course, in India, with, if you are aware of it, NEP, National Education Policy 2020, where IKS, Indian Knowledge Systems, is becoming like a compulsory subject for the next generation. So for the generation who is already passed out from the formal education, we were not fortunate enough to study the Chanakya or whatever Indian models in our student days. But the next generation is ready for Indian wisdom, and as Ankur Bhai said, it's also leadership is becoming a very important subject. So what we'll be doing is that today in this particular 1 hour webinar, we'll be touching upon and getting into some basic leadership ideas about Chanakya. And you'll be surprised that I would say it is even less than a sample, not even a sample. Why is it so? Because 6,000 sutras, formulas, ideas of how to build not just yourself personally as a leader, but also develop a nation or an organization that you're working with. A simple takeaway: India was the richest country in the world. I mean, everybody talks about it. But the deeper question as a researcher is, money, you also Chanakya's model and Kautilya's Arthashastra. Not wasting much time, I would request Professor to start over so you can get a glimpse, a very small glimpse of what our wisdom of knowledge was and knowledge of wisdom. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you very much, sir. I will not take much time away and then at least start going into the keep talking about things as we go ahead and discussing in terms of. So this is a program which we've been doing, and as sir said, this is just a glimpse, 6,000 sutras, and I feel 6,000 sutras are just a beginning point because I have got the privilege, and I would say one of the, I would say, selected ones of God at times because I got to study all the 6,000 sutras word by word under sir, and doing that, I have just opened up my vision in life where I have thought, from thinking small to thinking large and wide. So Arthashastra, when conveying it in just 10 sessions program, it becomes very difficult. However, we'll try and at least give you a glimpse. We'll give you a little idea of what Arthashastra is all about. So this is a program, Chanakya's Leadership for the Principle for the 21st Century. That is what we are doing. Now going on to, and we've been hearing Chanakya, Kautilya, and Ankur Bhai also said, oh, these are the two names, and he's also worked on it and things like that. And you all have heard about him. Probably most of you have also seen the serial Chanakya by Dr. Chandra Prakash Dwivedi, which has been there. Also read Sir's book in that context or attended some of the programs around. But then let's quickly glimpse into who this person is and why we are talking of him and why today in Hindu University of America, when we talking of a program education base, and that's when we're bringing this up. So who was he? When did he live? What did he do? And why is he a legend? That is what we are looking into. So number one, known by three names. So please don't get confused. Even we will flip-flop at times unconsciously. Vishnugupta was his given name. As I always say, that was his name which the passport had, or probably his Aadhaar card or birth certificate in that sense had. So that was his given name which was there. If you see his serial, Dr. Chandra Prakash Dwivedi serial, where he is addressed by his fellow students as Vishnu, then that's where the name Vishnugupta is. Kautilya is more of the scholarly name. Kautilya's Arthashastra, and Kautilya as a word comes in from his Gotra, which is a Kutila Gotra. Gotra is basically the lineage that we follow. Most of you would understand what I'm talking of when I'm saying Gotra. You all would probably know your own Gotras in that sense as well. But then Kutila Gotra was Kautilya's Gotra, and that's where the name Kautilya comes into picture. It's the scholarly name, Kautilya's Arthashastra. Somewhere the word Kutila also got developed because of this name which was there. Third thing, we look at Chanakya. I would say the claim to fame name. People keep talking about it. Chanakya Niti istemal kar raha hai, and using the Chanakya's mind and things like that. More famous because of Chanakya Niti, which is the book which he has written. The name Chanakya comes in because of his father. His father's name was Chanak. So Chanaka Putra Chanakya. That's why the name comes in. So there are three names. Please don't get confused. We'll flip-flop at times unconsciously. So that's why I bring this up in most of our presentations. Few things. Why is he known? What did he do? I will quickly run through that and then ask sir to add few thoughts about how Chanakya's work or thoughts are getting implemented in present day, and how are they even useful, and how we see so much of relevance in everything that's happening around with the kind of principle he's spoken about. So getting into history, he was the one who had vowed to pull down the Nanda dynasty. Dhananand was the king. There is a story behind that, that the Chanakya was insulted in the court, and then Dhananand also was a king who was responsible for Chanakya's father's death. In that case, these are the stories which go, and he took that vow I will bring him down. And he was the king, and Chanakya was just one simple teacher at that point of time. And he takes this vow. It's very important to mention about this because he is famous. There's a story which is very famous about this. Which most of us would have heard that, he had that shikha, the ponytail, which he did not tie. He says, I will not tie this shikha till the time I don't bring down this particular king who is there. So that is what was the story. But then why did he do that? And in our culture, in Indian culture, we have this habit of tying our goals. When we have some particular goal in life, we tie it to a particular habit of ours. A lot of people will say, oh, I was talking to students yesterday, and they say, exams are not done. If I'm not going to finish, I'm not, going to finish my curriculum. I'm not going to finish my studies. Till that time, I'm not going to watch TV. I will keep the mobile phone aside in today's day, I would say, in that sense. Or if certain thing is not happening, I will give away sweets in my life till the time certain goal is not achieved. So we tie our goals. Why do we do that? Is the reason is that every time I feel like having sweet or going and watching mobile, and I would feel that no, there is a particular goal which I have to achieve first, and I'll first do that. So it keeps reminding him. So Chanakya, every day, probably in the morning, he's taking bath, getting ready, and then his shikha is there. I don't even have any hair in that sense, but then Chanakya probably would have had the shikha. He would have said, oh, I need to not tie my shikha because there is a goal which I have to achieve in my life. So it constantly keeps reminding of that particular goal in life until the time he doesn't achieve. So tying our goals to our habits is what this particular incident or the story somewhere gives us a glimpse into our cultural habits. Chandragupta Maurya's kingmaker, a very well-known thing, Chanakya's student Chandragupta Maurya, whom he made the king of Magadha after pulling down Dhananand, responsible for defeat of Alexander in India. Obviously, Alexander was great and definitely was one of the most celebrated warriors, I would say, in history. But then when Alexander reached today's Pakistan, covering all the way from Mesopotamia or Greece, what we talk of, he reached Pakistan, and Chanakya was responsible for stopping him there by uniting 16 different kingdoms which are there. And then, that's how Alexander had to go back. So the whole reign of Alexander, which was growing, Chanakya was the one who stopped it. And that's because of his strategies which are there. So he's the one who was responsible for that. So he got injured and he goes back, and there's a story behind. He goes back to Persia and dies there. The next thing, Ashoka, India's first global emperor. Chanakya's teaching to Ashoka is also very well known. There is a serial called Ashoka as well, which you can see. It's available on YouTube as well. So Chandragupta Maurya's son, Bindusara's son, Ashoka, whom Chanakya also trained, became the first global emperor, as we say. And what do we mean by global emperor? Did he go and rule around the world? Did he have like, Mera Janda Ghat diya and this land belongs to me? No, they're not in that sense. But then when he became a global emperor, he became an influencer. His word, what he said influenced the whole world in that sense, or a big population around the world in that sense. Today, when we talk of being Vishwaguru and we talk of things like Vishwamitra today, in that sense, that is the influence which we're talking of. How can we influence the globe, everyone around in that sense for the betterment of everyone? So Ashoka, India's first global emperor, trained by Chanakya. And how did that happen? Obviously, Buddha and Buddhism, he spread Buddhism across, and that's how, if you go even to Japan today, or you even go anywhere across Europe, you will find traces of Buddhism everywhere around, and that is where Ashoka was responsible for that. Last final thing which we focus upon and talk of is the man did not only achieve things practically, but he also documented it. He wrote it down. He made theories out of it. So I would say, sitting in IIT Kharagpur, he not only experimented, he practically made it possible into application and had his theory behind written down in that sense. So 3 treatises which he documented: Kautilya's Arthashastra, Chanakya Niti, and Chanakya Sutrani. That is what he wrote. I will show you a little detail of that in the next slide and then give it to sir. But then these are the 3 things which he documented. Very important to see that he documented it, and today, after 2,300 years as well, we are able to look into the past and understand how he thought of governance in that sense, or other things which he talks of. Now, 4th century BC is when he happened. So 2,300 years is when we are talking of 3 treatises which I spoke of, the work which he did: Kautilya's Arthashastra, Chanakya Niti, and Chanakya Sutrani, or Praniti Sutras. There are 3 different things. You can find them. They're all available in the market, and I would encourage people to go deeper and read more on this text which are there. Kautilya's Arthashastra, that is where my work with Sir has been, and I mean, Sir has really brought up this Kautilya Arthashastra into a larger application with his books and all the work which he's been doing in that sense. So Kautilya Arthashastra, if you look at that particular text, treatise, and I would say it's not just a text or treatise, it is an encyclopedia in itself. 15 books divided into 150 chapters, 180 sections, and 6,000 sutras. You know, that is the size of Kautilya Arthashastra, which we talk of. We'll glimpse a little bit more into Kautilya Arthashastra as well, but what we are looking at is 6,000 sutras. That's the size. What are these 15 books and 150 chapters? We'll give you a little glimpse into that as we go ahead as well. Chanakya Niti, very famous. People would have bought it from bookstores and available as well. Sir has also written his commentary on Chanakya Niti, which is there. This is a book, 17 chapters, only 455 sutras, maybe a one seat reading. You can just maybe, if you're a good reader, you can finish off this particular text in one day itself. So, but then this is more towards people's behavior. Chanakya also not only wrote how the kingdom should be run or how governance should be done, but he also spoke about how people should be, how the society should be. So Rajaniti Shastra and Samaj Shastra is what he focuses and gives glimpse into when it comes to Chanakya Niti, which is there. Third thing, Chanakya Sutrani or Praniti Sutras, as it is known, 571 sutras, one-liners, divided into 6 chapters, which is there. Starts basically with something like Sukhasya Moolam Dharma. You know, if you sukhi hona hai, if you want to be happy in life, you have to be dharmic. Dharmic in some of, not religious, but I would say be righteous, do the right things, ethically right things in that sense. So, Sukhasya Moolam Dharma. Then he goes as Dharmasya Moolam Artha. You know, so if you really want to do the right dharma in life, you will need Artha. Or for Artha also, you need to be dharmic in that sense. So there are different ways of understanding in that sense. So there are one-liners which are given. So that's 571 of them in this particular text which is there. So this is Kautilya's work or Chanakya's work which is there. Before I get into little more details of Kautilya Arthashastra, now time for me to hand over to Sir. And Sir, please, waiting to hear from you myself as well, because we want to see what things are happening in the Kautilyan world in the present day as well. So over to you, please, Sir.
Thank you, Professor. So just for your information, there's always this historical doubt about Chanakya. Did he exist? Of course, he existed, and the whole work of his has been documented. As you see, the 3 books, Arthashastra, Chanakya Niti, and Chanakya Sutrani. Now, one of the biggest things about Chanakya is that his life is a mix of theory and practice. A lot of people who have ideas, they build theories, and academicians like us are known for that. So frameworks, this is what it should be done. But the reality is that did somebody practice it? And the answer is he himself. So the question always comes, was it theory into practice or practice into theory? The good news is that both of them are interlinked. So whatever Chanakya wrote, he's practiced it, and whatever is practiced has actually also been documented. Chanakya is gone. None of us have seen him physically, but ideas don't die. So these books are available for our generation. Unfortunately, one of the things with a glorious past of a country like India, or the wisdom that we call Indic wisdom, is always limited to the past. When I say, okay, let's go and glorify our great culture. Of course, it's a glorious culture. We are proud of it. But do we find relevance? Do you find relevance in today's generation? So leadership principles for the 21st century. Let me give you a couple of examples. Even in the previous slide, it was very clearly said, okay, he had taken an oath, and the work that Professor spoke about and achieved it. And it's a practical demonstration that, okay, don't just talk about it, do it. Leadership is also connected to power gains. So, Dharan was into power. Chandragupta wasn't into power. He made him powerful through his training. Alexander was a powerful emperor who came to India, and he was defeated. There's a question in the chat box also. Is there a reference? We'll be showing that video also later on, where it has been now verified that Alexander came up till India, but could not defeat India. So again, same era. Alexander's guru, Aristotle, was a contemporary of Chanakya. Enough reference I found even when I was in Greece. It's not just Indians talking about India's glory. It is when I was in Greece, I remember I had gone to represent India at the World Congress of Philosophy. And a professor who actually was teaching philosophy over there and did his PhD in BHU, he told me that the Greeks and the Indians never fought after that. I think that's a fantastic end of a war permanently. Otherwise, they say in the army, the end of one war is beginning of the next. So after Alexander was defeated, India and Greeks never fought against each other. They actually collaborated with each other. So a theory into practice that wars can actually end also. You don't have to actually follow after generations. And finally, what I like is succession planning. A lot of leaders that we work with, be it the business leaders, be it spiritual organizations, in the military also. The key question, even in academic leadership, is or administrative leadership, who's going to continue after I'm gone. So it's very important to see that Ashoka continued from where Chandragupta left. So his life itself is a message, but we will not limit only to history and storytelling of Chanakya. We'll move more into the theory of Chanakya and try to understand how we can really look at our personal and professional lives. To take it further, I will hand it over to Pranav sir, and we'll take it to the next level of understanding the thoughts of Chanakya.
Thank you very much, sir. So yes, we've been using and we see so much of application in present day context as well. Now going into a little background of Kautilya Arthashastra, which text we've been talking of, and I always, tell people that this is something which is a text which is in Shastra Krupa. A lot of times text also come and tell you that let's have a discussion, and that's the kind of thing which Kautilya Arthashastra has been for myself. And so we've been continuously exploring this one text again and again and again and again. 6,000 sutras, and you can just not end thinking about multiple dimensions which Kautilya talks of. Known as Book of Economics, obviously Arthashastra, as we say. I personally got confused because of the bhasha antar. The bhasha ka jo antar, there's a distance in language translation which is there. Arthashastra, I also thought was a book on economics only, but then it turns out to be way beyond, because it just does not talk of economic behavior of a nation or a country. It talks of way beyond governance. He talks of things like how a country should run, how people should be. We'll go into, in fact, the details of things, and that is why we call it a book of statecraft, which is basically Rajaniti Shastra as well. And he also gets into law and legality, so punishment, as in Dandaniti Shastra. Yuddha Niti Shastra, as in war. Out of 15 books, 6 books are focused on warfare strategies in that sense. So warfare or Yuddha Niti, and strategy, the word which Chanakya uses is Anvikshaki. We'll also give a little glimpse into that as we go ahead. So this is Kautilya Arthashastra, known as Book of Total Management or Leadership, as we say. Divided into 5 parts. The first part talks of fundamentals of management. So leadership principles, how a king should be, how his behavior. In fact, he starts with what a prince who is going to become the king should be taught. So he starts with syllabus in terms of this is the knowledge, vidyas, which needs to be given to the prince. And that's where he starts from. So fundamentals of management is a book, or I would say the first part of Arthashastra, where he focuses and discusses in terms of development of the individual, the leader. So the major part of leadership development comes in this book, which is there. He not only stops there, he goes into further from him in terms of the king, how his routine should be, how he should behave with others, what all things he should study, what all things he should do during the day. So his dinacharya has been mentioned in that sense. And so personal behavior of the leader towards self is being focused in that. He focuses also on people around him. So he talks of, how to recruit his first in command. So second in command, I would say, in that sense. So the Amatya Utpatti comes in this particular, and how people in the palace should behave, and how he should behave with his prince, and how he should behave with the queen in that sense. So internal things come in the first part of Kautilya Arthashastra, the fundamentals of management we talk of. Book 2 onwards gets into economics, where he focuses on different departments, I would say different ministries which are there in today's context, which are there, how they are run, who should be there, what is the structures which should be there. And he goes into multiple sciences out there. We largely put it into a bucket and say it is book on economics, but I would say it's way beyond economics here as well, because Economics would just give you behavioral things, but Chanakya not only gives us behavioral things, he also gives us solutions to challenges which will occur in that sense. So economics to a I would say plus out here in book 2, which got there moves. Book 3, 4 more focuses on law legality. So once the kingdom is set up with different departments and things that we have to run the kingdom. So what should be the law and order? How should things be maintained? So how judiciary works, and when we talk of judiciary, he really gets into details like how contracts should be, and what is evidence, what is not evidence, and he gets into matrimonial disputes and property disputes because that is what applies to the praja, to the kingdom. And then he gets into policing and things. How should does policing be done? How should law and order be maintained? And also explains the spying system there, with how the king gets information, how the leader in the administration figures out and gets information from which is reliable and resourceful in that sense. So that is what he focuses till book 5, I would say. Book 6 and 7 more gets into foreign policy. So we have heard this connotation very often, dushman ka dushman dost, and things like that. So that's the kind of thing. Samadana, Bheda, Danda. These are the 4 chaturupayas. All these things comes in foreign policy. He talks of these things here in book 6, 7, majorly that is focused. And book 8 onwards, he moves more into war strategies. I'll go into details of each book quickly in the next slide for all of you to just take a glimpse in that as well. Uh, Gets into different sciences, gemology, Ayurveda, architecture. I mean, as I said, it's so many things, passport systems, visa systems, like how a liquor shop should be managed, and how a crime is being investigated. So from forensic science to administration, everything is covering in that sense. He talks of gold mines, how to mine gold, how to manage gold, because those were valuable things at that point of time. So he works on treasury in that sense. So these are things which Kautilya focuses in Arthashastra. We say it survived the test of time. Obviously, it's survived the test of time. It's worked with the human mind. It talks about how the leader should think, the mind of the leader, where it starts. So in fact, the first word, anvikshiki, which we spoke of, strategic thinking. Chanakya says first is the mind of the leader. Everything starts from there. And that's what he works on, human psychology. That is why we say all these principles are even relevant as on date as well. Quickly showing you all the 15 books which Kautilya Arthashastra has. I gave you all a brief, but then I'll just show you the names of the books as well. So book 1 more focuses on concerning the topics of training. So how the leader should be trained, leadership development training programs, which I conduct. I primarily use this book as a base, and so has also focused more in terms of philosophical work towards I would say leadership development, the philosophy of leadership development, which comes in. So Anvikshiki, where it starts from. So first book more focus is concerning the topics of training. Second, it gets into activities of head of department. So different departments, different ministries, as I said. Third, judges, concerning judges, how the judicial system should be, how legal work framework should work. Fourth, criminal suppression of criminal policing activity, which I spoke of. Secret conduct, so spying system comes in there. Circle of Kings as the basis. So that's more to do with in terms of foreign policy, or how relationship between 2 states would be there in that sense. And then foreign policy, he focuses on 6 measures. How should different relationship between states, depending on what conditions are, how things should be at that point of time, is what he works on. Considering topic of calamities, obviously he also gets into things when unforeseen events happen, which can be man-made or natural, but then unforeseen events happen. How should you react? If COVID comes in, what should the leader do? That was one big question. A lot of evidences we find in Kautilya Arthashastra, which became useful in present day context as well. He says, open up all the treasury and all the food grains and things which you have stored in your warehouses for the people. India gave away food to people in that sense. We gave away free vaccines to people because we always focused on human more than just economy. And that's when, in fact, the I would say Arthashastra's heart comes in as well. So there are things which he discusses in book number 8. Book number 9, more activities of the king about to march. So if preparing for war. Now, this side of the list which you see is more focused towards war strategies, which are there. So activities of the king about to march. So before getting into a war, how should you prepare? How should you start gearing yourself up? How should you prepare in terms of going into a situation where there is going to be losses, there's going to be unforeseen events. Money plays in a big role, your muscle power plays in a big role, and all but then how would you develop those is what Chanakya focusing here. Concerning what strategies are discussed, we use this a lot of times when it comes to strategy development for corporates as well. Concerning war, so how different war strategies work. Now, if you've seen the movie Bahubali, you would all have seen things like Garuda formation or Trishul formation or Naga formation. These are different strategies, but then that's how the mind is thinking in terms of going and capturing or basically defeating the opposite army or the opposite kingdom which is fighting against them all as well. So the strategies which Chanakya focuses on concerning war in here. Policies towards oligarch. If most of you don't know the meaning of oligarch, I would request to Google it. Oligarch basically means a small group of people who have huge power. Few people having large power. These are the kind of coteries as we use in Indian Hindi language. But then oligarch is what Chanakya focuses here, where he talks how to build oligarch and how to break oligarch. So different things. I mean, as book 11 comes in, it gets higher strategy, I would say, which Chanakya works on in this. Concerning the weaker king, so not always, we always are not going to be the stronger one. There are times when we are the weaker one, we are the smaller one. We might be facing difficulties which are large beyond our capacities to handle it. So how would you behave then? How would you act then? What are the strategies you would utilize when you are the weaker one? These are the things which Chanakya focuses. In fact, a book dedicated to that particular thing which Chanakya has written. Means of taking a fort, how to go and fight, capture a particular, you've seen after war or things like that, you go and capture an area, but then how do you integrate that into your mainland? That kind of things which is focused. So mergers and acquisitions, basically we use this strategy. Companies who are merging, acquiring, they have these challenges where two different culture organizations coming together. How do we bring them together? Means of taking fort usually focuses on those things here. Concerning secret practices, again, few secret talks which he talks of how would a leader think of knowing all this, how would he operate that? So that's what is focused on. Method of the sciences. So this is where he talks of all the research methodology, as we say, what references he has used, how he has written the text, how did he go about finding things and putting it in the text as well. So he talks of Purvacharyas and he talks of in fact, this is the book where Chanakya actually writes down, saying that I, Kautilya, who is writing this text, which has 15 books, 150 chapters, 180 sections, 6,000 sutras. So that's where we know that, so that autograph, as we say, after the whole book is there in that, which is also mentioned in this. So these are the 15 books, which I thought I will quickly run through and give a brief run over into. So a few thoughts of yours on Arthashastra before we, and then we get into the other thoughts, I mean, some sutras to also explore for the day, sir.
Thank you. One of the, I would say, disclaimer, when you start a movie nowadays, there's always this disclaimer. This is not meant for me. Why should I study about oligarchies? Why should I study about war? I'm not in the military. I'm not concerned with the judicial system. I understand it's a corrupt system. Why should I get into it? Now, the beauty of this text is that it is number one, Raja Vidya. It's meant for leaders or those who want to be leaders. Very clear. So there is no doubt about it that, number one, if you're not aware of these topics, let me tell you, these are must topics for leaders. And if you study it, you will start thinking like a leader. I remember at Mumbai University, I was taking this batch where we run a 2-year program, and I was asking the students, okay, suppose, they were all students from the corporate world. Suppose you are given an opportunity to become the head of an educational institution, a school, a college, a university, whatever. Would you become after studying Chanakya? And you'll be surprised. All the students got up and said, yeah, why not? Because a principal, or what in some countries they also call a president also. Now he or she actually is a leader. Now only the field has changed, maybe from the corporate world to the academic world. There are some technical aspects that we need to understand. That's okay. But I will not be a failed leader if I study Chanakya in a new field. It's like, the basics of cricket. And you're playing in India, now you have to go and play in Australia. Okay, but remember it's cricket. You have to understand the team, the bowler, because the opponent has changed. Why am I telling this? That in Chanakya's wisdom, you start thinking like a leader. Of course, if you look at judicial system, you say, okay, in the corporate world, how do I apply it? if you are working in a professional organization. Remember, a king also, or a leader, a CEO, whatever you may call him or her, has the power to punish people. Punish people, yeah. You can give them a warning letter. You can actually hire people, increase their salary. You can even dismiss them. So that's called the art of punishment. So when you study it initially, it may look like a completely different subject, but all of them are connected to leadership. You may not go out to, fight with a battle, fight in a battle with maybe guns, but you actually have to fight boardroom wars or maybe legal battles. You get prepared for all these things. To summarize this, you can even think about how you can expand your leadership skills internationally, your organization. So we have the foreign policy, the mandala theory. So generally students have this, this basic question. Why should I study mathematics? It's so boring. Why should I study geometry? Life में कभी काम नहीं आने वाला है. And all these formulas, the students have this complaint. So I always tell them, of course, all of them will not be relevant to you as a profession. You may not become a mathematician. You may not become a specialist in maybe geography. But the basic understanding of geography and mathematics will remain with you lifelong. So it's very important to know that this gives you a framework to understand. I like to give you a practical application after studying this, what happened. I remember, myself and Pranav sir, we are part of the core team which actually organized the International Yoga Day. So we did an academic conference in New York with the Consulate General. The whole government of India's, budget we had used up for that. And I still remember the first time I got a call from Delhi, and they said, okay, we are having this concept called International Yoga Day. Can you work around it? I said, okay, let me try it out. And I told them very clearly, listen, I'm not a yoga specialist. So my specialization is Chanakya. So yoga, of course, I practice at my personal level. I've read Patanjali Yoga Sutra. That's all fine. But to do is at this international level. So yoga is not my subject. Chanakya is. And I still remember the minister telling us, that's exactly what we want. We have too many yoga experts. We want somebody like Chanakya who can make it international. And I immediately called up, I remember Pranav and the other team members. Chala karte hai kya? Sir, aap hai to karta hai na. And then we did that first in Chandigarh and we did it in New York, and today look at what's happening across the globe. So what happened that confidence that we can try something new in a different field, but the strategic thinking that we have Anvikshik or the Saptanga model that you will see in the future also will help you in whichever field you want to be a leader. There are some technical skills that you have to acquire of that field, but that's okay. But the competency required to become a leader is provided by Chanakya and the Arthashastra and other books. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Chanakya application and different things. We from organizing yoga day to hosting a consulate general. I mean, we've been doing different things. But then, yes, as I said, application. I also got an opportunity to work for the election campaign in United States for 2016 because of working on leadership and Kautilya. So multiple dimensions, multiple applications, multiple different formats. But then, as sir says, oh, Kautilya is a master key. But it's not a master key. As we say, he covers so many different aspects which you can explore. I mean, I see people from legal background exploring Kautilya Arthashastra from legality perspective, from economic background. Obviously, people work on that. We work with the armed forces and with sir's work, we all have also been able to explore the war strategies and things like that. Foreign policies, bureaucrats, foreign ambassadors, people use the foreign policy strategies in that sense in application. Obviously, sir's work starting from corporate Chanakya has also seen the application in the corporate world, how businesses should run. And we depict Arthashastra's model where sir's work has been in terms of applying those principles, leadership principles, which is given to run a kingdom, to run a corporate. And I would say corporates are no less than kingdoms these days. In fact, they're bigger than countries. A lot of corporates which we see every day, we touch every day, we feel every day, live with. So that's the kind of thing which Arthashastra has been doing. Now let's glimpse into a little bit of some sutras and why Arthashastra is interesting. Give our minds some work as well and see how applications can be figured out. And I will always call this as decoding. All our sutras are coded. And sometimes some people ask, oh, have you studied Sanskrit? And sir has done his MA in Sanskrit as well. But people ask me, have you studied Sanskrit? I said, no, but sir's work has been in that sense where we read the Sanskrit sutra, then we decode it using our translations, but at the same time also understand the Sanskrit word. Because for most of us who are Indians here, whatever our mother tongue is, or whatever we little Hindi most people understand, and people who speak Hindi in that sense also would connect to Sanskrit and some of the words which come in there. Now let's try decoding this one sutra. In fact, there's not a sutra, there's a salutation which is there on your screen, which I have shared. It is where Chanakya starts Kautilya Arthashastra. He says, Om Namah Shukra Bruhaspati. So when we start something, we always do something auspicious. We Bhagwan ka naam le lo, right? Or in fact, when we write also, we do some Om or some other kind of a symbol which we put. Okay, so that's where he starts with in terms of, sorry. So that's where he starts with in terms of the salutation. He says, Om Namah Shukra Bruhaspati Bhyam. Now, what is this? He does this Namaskaram to two people, and most of us would understand what he's doing. So, Om, auspicious, Namaskaram to Shukra and Bruhaspati. So, who Shukra? Shukracharya, basically, all of us know the guru or the teacher of the Danavas, and Bruhaspati, the teacher of the Devatas, who is there. Now, Chanakya does Namaskaram to two of them. And then let's decode this. Why would he do Namaskaram to two of them in that sense? When a lot of time we'll say, they both were teachers. Yes, they were teachers. But then I would say, let's decode and understand why did he do Namaskaram to Shukracharya first and then Bruhaspati? Maybe randomly yaad aa gaya, isliye pehle likh diya hoga, but then no, it is Chanakya. So there is definitely some logic which he has put in when he's doing that. And I would say, Om Namah Shukra. So negatives, what your enemy is doing. So look at what your enemy is doing and what you are doing as well. Also, in that sense, yes, possible. But then I would say Om Namah Shukra, a little bit of negative, and then Bruhaspati, which is positive. The Chanakya says, look at the negatives first and then look at the positives. Look at both sides of it. The world somewhere has gone into the direction where it says, manifest, look at the positivity, focus on your thoughts, don't use those words, think of only positives which are there. And I mean, I'm sure you all have seen that 90 minutes documentary and the very famous book also, which has been written on positive thinking and positive thought, which is there. Chanakya says, yes, it is important, but don't forget the negatives as well. So he says, first look at the negatives, look at them, understand what it is. So look at what can go wrong first, prepare yourself against that, and then hope for the best to happen. Right? So the whole insurance industry, or I would say the whole of risk management industry is based on this thought, which we say that look at the negatives, what can go wrong. Accident ho gaya, ya aag lag gaya, ya if I die, if my health goes bad, how will I do? God forbid, nothing of this has to happen. We don't want the negatives to happen, but hope for the best after that, preparing for that. So this is Om Namah Shukra Bruhaspati Vyam. Chanakya does salutations in that sense. He looks at both sides of the coin, understands it. And that is why we say Chanakya is a realist. He's not optimist or he's not pessimist. He analyzes both sides and has a balanced understanding and point of view. And that's why we call him a realist, and he focuses on reality. So that is what I would say we decode it in that sense. And then I will go into one more sutra. In fact, the program which we are going to talk about is where this is the sutra which it is based upon. And we have Sir's work has been designed. Sir is sitting at home right now. If he was in his office, you would have seen this particular diagram put behind on his wall as well. And all our thought processes, all our discussions, is based on this one sutra which is coming in. And I would say this is where it's exactly in the center of Kautilya Arthashastra. Up to book number six, Chanakya talks of development of the leader around him, departments, legalities, law and order, So then he sets up. But then at book 6, he gives an outside in view. This is an internal development, but then he says from the outside, if you look at the organization or if you look at the state, kaisa dikhega now that it is ready. So book 6 is half, and then he goes into one state interacting with the other state and one country. So foreign policy comes in from that. So what is this? The sutra which is there, it is 6.1.1, book number 6, chapter number 1, sutra number 1, which says, so Swami Amatya Janapada Durga Kosha Danda Mitrani Prakritayah. This is a sutra. Don't get worried by such a long sutra which is there in that sense. But then what it means, the king, the minister, the country, the fortified city, the treasury, the army, and the ally are the constituent elements of the state. Mitraniti Prakriteyaha, and we call it Sapta Anga. It is for Sapta, the 7 Angas, or limbs of a state or an organization or any kind of a thing. In fact, if you look at the sutra, it says Mitrani Prakriteyaha, the last part of it. It is nature. Nature's law is that any kind of an organization or structure will have this 7 things which are there. What are this? Let's look at it in present day context and try and bifurcate and see how we can use it into our application. Swami, obviously the leader, the person who is in command, the person who is leading a particular organization, a particular country, we say, or any particular family for that matter, also in that context. The person who is leading, the leader himself who is there. Then he gets into Amatya, the second in command, the minister. The ministers, I would say, because they're not just one, there are multiple ministers or amatyas in that context. The second, the CEOs, second in command, or I would say the chairman, then having all the executive CXOs under him, the marketing head, HR head, finance head, operations head, IT head, security head, multiple. So, but then there's a second in command to the leader who are there in that sense, when we talk of here. Then he gets into country Janapada, with people, whom he focuses upon, the market which he's supposed to serve. This is the people. Now, understand, I've used the word serve. The understanding is that the business should be serving the client. Your products, your services, everything should be focused on the client, not on yourself. In a sense, a lot of people do develop a product and say, "Ab main ye bechunga." No, look at the product which the market requires. So that's how I would say they understand. So Janapada, the country which Chanakya talks of in that sense, people, the population of the country, or way beyond, I would say Janapada is just not people, not just a vote bank in the short democratic mind, which talks of a democracy obviously is very important from that person. But then the mind which goes in because of this voting thing is that my vote bank. No, Janapada focuses beyond, not just humans. In fact, it goes on to forest, wildlife, nature. So when we look at ESG nowadays, talking of application into larger context to the ecosystem ecology, Janapada is the understanding which is there for the market, which is there. Then further going into Durga or fortified city, we put it in reference to infrastructure. So any company, any organization usually has factories, offices, campuses. I stay in a campus, which is an infrastructure in itself. This kind of things for a country. It will be obviously the border, the roads which are there, the bridges which are there, the airports, which everything, the infrastructure which comes into context in a sense. Obviously, digital infrastructure also now, all your cloud servers or everything that is digital, your websites, your email servers, everything becomes part of infrastructure. And Durga is in that context, which we look at. Kosha, obviously, no need to explain, finance, money, accounts, everything to do with the greens, which is there, how money should work, how he should manage finances, how he should run the economy with the financial application. You ask of monetary policy, fiscal policy and things like that, there might not be too many Chanakya's applications available because banking system as such was not there. But then how money should work, the basic fundamentals are very clearly given in that context, which is there. Then Danda, obviously the army, the people who work, the team which is there. And when we say team, we talk of the frontline warriors. When I say frontline warriors, is everyone who is there. From a country perspective, your IAS officers and beyond, so all your people who work in the government services, to the army, to the police, to medical doctors, to everyone, people who do the grassroots work, who are actually working for the nation, for keeping things, for the ecology, for the ecosystem to keep going. These are the people whom he focuses on. And in a company, I would say the sales team, or the admin team, which is there, or the labor who is working on the shop floor in that sense. So this is the army, people who actually do the application work. And then finally, Mitra or ally and friends who are there. So for a country, another country is an ally or a friend. For an organization or a company can be another organization, another company which is there, whom they ally with. Or at the same time, we can look at people who are not with the organization, but still work for the benefit of the organization, which can be the consultants, company secretaries, CAs, lawyers who work for the benefit of the company, are also friends. So these are allies whom with we work. So this is a structure. Chanakya says 7 things, Sapta Anga, 7 pillars, and then how we look at applying it in present day context, from a business to run a country, to running an organization, running NGOs, to running education institute. We can really look at application in all aspects of organizational behavior or organizational development, which we talk of in that sense out here. So this is what we will focus our program as well, which we are doing for 10 weeks going ahead also. So a few thoughts from you, then I'll give more details of the program, and then we'll end the seminar.
Yeah. Thank you, Pranav sir. So this is one of the frameworks. Whenever I think as a leader, you should know what's the kind of a thinking. There's so many mental models in this particular book. Saptanga is one of them, very easy to remember. Swami Amatya Janapada Durga Kosha Danda Mitrani. But there are mandala theory frameworks, and of course, Samadana Danda Bheda, very famous one. Then we have frameworks like Chaturupayas. We'll go into detail of all that. But once you get into understanding how to think, and that subject is called Anvikshiku, then you don't require a teacher. You become a teacher. So come in as a student, go out as a teacher. A lot of questions which I've tried to answer some of them, but a lot of comments. I will leave it to both the Patels to decide which one to answer, because time is always a limit, but questions should go on and on. I like to end up by telling that question answer is very good. Of course, time limit is always there because our culture is about Q&A. Be it Bhagavad Gita, be it the Upanishads. So we encourage questions. So whenever we are passing on, I would like to answer every question. In fact, in the program that we are organizing, one of the classes only for Q&A. We actually take an extra class. But before you ask a question, study about the answer and then question every answer. Thank you. Pranav sir, over to you, Ankur sir.
Thanks, yes, Angabhai, if you like to introduce the program, or I may also do the same.
Just the Saptanga. It was so cool. And when I was in the class, I applied the Saptanga to Hindu University of America. And in the class, everyone applied it to their own lives, their businesses. And it was so interesting and the course is engaging. I just want to launch the poll real quick so we capture that information at the top of the hour. So please let us know if you're interested in this course. It is super fun. It's interesting. And if you enjoy the way that Pranav Bhai and Dr. Pillai present, you'll definitely love the course. So I just wanted to put that in and hand it back to you, Pranav Bhai.
All right, thank you very much. Quickly, just giving a brief on the program. So we look at who are, we'd always ask who should learn this, who should attend this program. So I would say senior executives and manager, people who are in leadership position in corporates, definitely are the people who should attend programs like this. People, public sector leaders and policymakers. Kautilya's work in leadership development, especially administration, has been very extensive, and these principles can be used in that context as well. People who are looking at research work, people who want to work on economic theories, legal theories, multiple aspects of Arthashastra, I would say, from an academic perspective, also can attend and should attend, I would say. Entrepreneurs, business leaders, yes, obviously the kings, people who run the countries, people who run economies in that sense, I would say, entrepreneurs and businessmen should also attend this program, and leadership consultants and coaches. Myself and Dr. Pillai also have been working in terms of consulting, coaching from a leadership perspective based on Kautilya Arthashastra principle. And if others who are interested in working on those lines can also definitely join this program and should join the program, I would say, in that context. Quickly going into the program details, in fact, not 12 weeks, there's going to be 10 weeks, I would say, because there's Diwali and one more holiday coming in. We will try and extend one. Don't worry, we always do that. We have an extra session after the coursework also ends. So 11 plus 1 week in that sense, starting. Wait, I just got the dates. Yep, here. Starting on 13th of October and going on till 15th of December. The course fee is $300 through HUA, and I'm sure it's also part of the other programs which people are doing in terms of Hindu studies, which is there. There is also an provision of scholarship for people who are joining in from, not from United States, but from, as we say, Greater Bharat context. So people joining in from Nepal, obviously Bharat, India for that sense, for sure. Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Maldives, Malaysia, and Indonesia. There will be a scholarship which can be worked upon. You need to write a mail to HUA about your background and in terms of where you are from, joining things as well. Also, people from Mauritius, Seychelles, South Africa, Fiji, Suriname, Jamaica, Trinidad, and Tobago, Guyana, Barbados, St. Louis, and others Caribbean countries. Also, there is a 35% scholarship which has been offered by HUA for all the students in that sense. So you can join in the links. I'm sure you all would have got an email in from HUA on joining the program. And if not other thing, Ankur Bhai, have you done the poll? Is the poll done? I'm not sure.
Yeah, we had about 40 out of the 60 people who are left fill out the poll. If you don't see it, just minimize, maximize. I also dropped the link in the chat and the scholarship page as well. Please consider this course. If you haven't taken an HUA course, this is definitely one that I highly recommend. And we're going to engage. Somebody said their student might want to start a Chanakya club at their high school. I was like, Pranabhai, you're interested. I know you are, so I already passed that information on. But what can, and this is what HOA is about, right? How do we take all of this knowledge, this Indic knowledge system, this history, this heritage we have, and apply it, use it for the benefit of all of us? And this is a particularly wonderful course that really exemplifies that. So please do consider taking this course. Yeah.
In fact, just to add on, myself and Pranav are also working on a textbook on this. Because right now it's more online now. So once that happens, it can be there in every high school and middle school, not only in US, but also in India. So that it becomes a part of the main curriculum at not only higher education, but also at the primary and secondary level. Working on that. Thank you.
So, yeah,
So
Ankur
from
Bhai,
my side, yeah, sorry.
no, sir, please.
I just want to tell that, try to answer maximum questions in the question answer box, but the chat has got too many questions and good to see such a huge number of participation. We may not be able to answer everything because time limitation. We had asked for 1 hour on your weekend. We need to respect that also. But
I
over
have
to you,
dropped in
Pranav.
In fact, I have also dropped in my email ID in the chat box. So in case anyone wants to, ask, connect further, books of Arthashastra, I mean, you can just go on the HUA link, Arthashastra books link, and Sir's books links are all there on that link. So you can go and see those there and maybe order those. And if any other query, please write me a mail. I will definitely try and respond. I will try and respond. I will respond, but maybe give me 48 hours time to respond to your emails as well. So, yeah, Gurbhai, that's about it. Some final parting words from you, and then.
Yeah, I said on my part already. Esther G, I know you said you're interested in this course, but let me make the pitch to you. Expand your bandwidth. This will help you expand your bandwidth, and maybe I'll leave it to Esther G to take us close this webinar.
Yeah, somebody asked in the Q&A section, like why we are not using this, why we haven't used this, because our ancestors had already put this wisdom together and passed it on to us. Yes, most of it was deliberately kept away from us. We know why, we know by whom. But the point here is, we all have been raised on some of these that you just mentioned, the Samadama Danda Bheda. So we've heard our parents, our grandparents use these words, but we've normalized this wisdom so much that we forgot that it comes actually from a Shastra, science. So Arthashastra is fantastic. And recently, I think PM Modi delivered a speech on August 15th, and he said something very, very important that stood out for me. He said that India is a rising power. Others are seeing it as a threat and doing what they have to do to quell this rising power. So this reminded me of Thucydides' trap. So Thucydides' trap is, for those of you who are not conversant with it, it's the idea that an already established dominant power is threatened by a rising power, and it would the result is always a war, more often than not. So that is what is Thucydides' trap, but it is attributed to, of course, the idea was conceptualized by Thucydides, a Greek historian back in the 3rd century. But then when I looked at it, Chanakya has talked extensively about this in his entire Shastra. So it's how, this wisdom was there with us prior to anybody else. And we have not been able to make use of it. Now, once again, thanks to HUA, definitely not because I am from HUA, but for bringing out these gem of scholars like Dr. Pillai and Pranavji. So this is not a pitch. This I'm saying it as a need for every one of us as Indians, as Hindus. I think we should take this message, take this wisdom, and be prepared to pass it on to our next generations.
Ji, just to come in, and I was super tempted to come in here, and we talk about this in our class as well. It is not Samadana Danda Bhed. It is Samadana Bhed Danda. Danda is the last option, you know. War is the last option. We are prepared for the war. We can punch and hit like no one else, but then we will use it as a last option. So Samadana Bhed Danda has to be. So Danda always comes last. Like China, and you're not the only one. In fact, I'll tell you, Bollywood has made songs which say Samadana Danda Veda. Oh, no, 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 no. In fact, the whole meaning goes wrong in that sense. Chanakya specified, in fact, the two sutras where he says, second sutra, he says, first is Sama. If it doesn't work, then Dana. If it doesn't work, then Veda. If it doesn't work, then final Danda. So, and Danda also, war also to establish peace. You know, the reason for war has to be to establish peace, not to defeat or kill or finish off the other one in that sense. If someone is not behaving, then just to bring in peace, war has to be used. Now, these are things we will discuss in the class, and I'm Ankur and Sir laughing because I always take this as an offense when anyone uses this thing with Samadana and then I really feel jittered about it. So,
at least that is how I was raised on. Probably our parents wanted to incorporate
everyone
first, then you know,
something is better than nothing. Something is better than nothing.
स्कूल में अच्छे नहीं कर रहे हो, रिपोर्ट कार्ड में मार्क्स कम है, तो पहले दंड फिर भेद के बारे में बात करेंगे. So probably that's how they used it in that order, just on the lighter side. But yeah, thanks for correcting.
So you're muted, so you need to unmute yourself.
So it's good because these are the kind of discussions we'll have. So you have a good start. At least you know the 4 words. You only did not know the sequence. Thank your parents. We'll do the correction as teachers.
Of course.
Because something is better than nothing. At least many of us, at least all of us over here know the name Chanakya. At least we know the name.
Right.
You'll be surprised when I travel to many countries, they're not even heard about it. And the wrong part, I would say, starts with the comparison of Machiavelli. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
So we'll do all the minor corrections. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I come from a Telugu home, so even the word Vijigishu was used, you know, don't behave like a Vijigishu, like you're a Vijigishu. So I grew up on this terminology, so but normalized it, never knew that it comes from the science called Arthashastra. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We all pleasure having you all. Time is always a challenge, and our discussions can go on. In fact, as I say, I was blessed to have the 6 months residential program to learn Kautilya Arthashastra. Not everyone is blessed. I'm a pet child of God. I love that thing in myself. So thank you very much. We all look forward to seeing you all in the program, and do register, or if even not, please be in touch. Anything wherever we can share our inputs, we will be more than glad.
Before we wind up, Pranav, one last thing. There's been a request. Can the slides be shared? So can Pranav sir, maybe share it with Ankur sir or ma'am, and then you can repost it to all the attendees?
In fact, the recording will be shared to everyone. The whole recording of the program will be available, so people can view that.
Yeah, that will be nice. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaskar.
Dhanyawad.